This whole Labyrinth game is starting out actually pretty strange with Haku and Natsu fighting first. I don't think anybody expected that. That's a really weird way to start like this whole set of battles off. I really like what Celine's doing. Also, I just want to comment on the niceness of the cover page. That really nice one with like Eleftheria behind Natsu, but he's in his dragon form. This looks really cool. But chapter whole kind of starts out just explaining things, stuff that we kind of already knew as readers, what we've digested over the last 2 weeks. But for the characters, this is in the moment, especially for Loxus and Gotcha, who just got teleported here and don't even know who Celine is. But Celine is saying it didn't really matter exactly who there was to who exactly it was going to be that came over, as long as they were Dragon Slayers. Now here's the thing, Mishima did say, I got a video I really want to do. Mishima did say that he planned on Gildarts and Sting and Rogue being relevant in this arc, and I find it really, well, not in this arc, in 100 Years Quest rather, and I find it really hard to believe that Mishima doesn't have plans for Jalal. I mean, we've already seen Jalal like working towards getting, like, becoming a member of the guild, so he's got to have something in store for him. And as I've said with Celine, which she just demonstrated with Loxus and Godjil, any character can show up in this arc that is alive, because Celine can just bring them here and no one can really fight back against her. The only people out in the verse right now being Ignia and Viernez. So characters even like Jalal, like, she could just completely command them and there's no real way of combating her decision. So we could get Jalal, Gildarts, Sting and Rogue, but she would also have to bring in some people, and that's for a video I really want to do. I really want to talk about at some point, just a theory video on something up and coming using those pieces, using Jalal, Gildart, Sting, and Rogue. Just wanted to bring it up as like a little bit of a teaser for that video, because I am excited for the idea, because I think it makes a lot of sense. But I want to go into spoilers right now. But Eleftheria is pretty much questioning her. We're getting a rundown on what it is. Celine's gonna pretty much just try and like give out all the rules on what's going on, but she's also informing them that now she is the guildmaster of Diablos, and their reactions are about what you'd expect. Like, it's just really confusing of them having a dragon in a guild of people that eat dragons. And she's like, you know, that we share a common interest, and she's talking about in the labyrinth there is Eleftheria's heart, and she wants to get it so she can gain the knowledge of things that Eleftheria doesn't know about. Because one thing is, like, we found out kind of what Eleftheria's dragon attribute is in the previous chapter, with him saying it was the dragon ability of knowledge, and he just knew stuff. But it seems that, like, he doesn't know everything. He knows of stuff, but it's not like he has pinpoint accuracy. And I think this would make sense if, like, he knows of whatever he's done with the whole negative legacy that the humans have with their other weapons. Like, he knows of them, but maybe he doesn't know where they are. It would make sense if, like, maybe he knew Acnologi was defeated and somebody did it, but he didn't know who it was. Like, he doesn't get the whole picture. It's not one for one for him. Maybe he's only getting like half knowledge and half kind of an understanding. Whereas, like, now Celine is bringing up how the heart in the labyrinth has grown more powerful. My guess is just being in the labyrinth, which is from Dogromag's magic, that it made Celine's, or just like his dragon powers in general, I would assume. But his magic as well, because we know that, like, that lingers on top of everything else. But that surrounding Eleftheria's heart simply made it more powerful, so it has a higher level of being able to figure stuff out in the magic world. So it'll probably be way more pure, and you'll just get kind of like a 1-for-1, like I said, instead of like a 1 for a half. But I did really like what Mishima did when he was like having, or I guess at this point it's a way to doing the art, so I have to give him credit, him and his team, when they're turning back into their human forms, how they have that kind of like wisp of energy like coming down to them, but parts of it is like in their dragon form, kind of like in image, so it's like it's kind of like being absorbed into this human form. I thought that was just a really cool touch. Like, we've probably already seen it before and I just can't remember. I know with Ignia it was just in flames, so that's the only one I think of right off the top of my head. Because do we see I'm trying to think. We don't see Mercephobia transform. We see him only in human and in dragon form. We never see him go from one to the other transformation wise. Because I'm pretty sure pretty much every time rather, was off panel that he transformed. At least that I recall. But she's saying, like, being very, very intelligent, because she's saying that if Eleftheria dies, though, that the heart will go as well, so she needs to keep him safe for the game. And what she pretty much does is she teleports him away, which I think is actually good on her end, because Eleftheria's strength has still obviously not been demonstrated, but the fact that he beat Dogremag, which means he should be around level to actually fight back against against one of the Black Dragon Slayer Knights. He should be able to fight back against one of them. Maybe not like be as powerful, but be that way where he's able to keep up with them, and maybe he could win more intelligently, like however his dragon slaying and dragon magic works. But Selene assures them that she's good. But I do really like seeing Selene's casual teleports, because I've been telling people like that is something they have to figure out how to get past if any of them are ever going to actually fight a serious Selene. Because the serious Selene is going to know at any point she can teleport away or teleport people away, as she's showing in this chapter. But she's now laying out, okay, here's what's going to happen. 7 Dragon Slayers from 2 different guilds. Well, 7 Wizards from 2 different guilds, because obviously Gray, Urza, and Lucy aren't Dragon Slayers. Wendy can enchant them to have the dragon attribute, and Urza does have a dragon slaying sword, but I don't really know how exactly some of those fights are going to go down with like the weaker people. It makes me wonder why she didn't instead bring Cobra, Sting, and Rogue in here and grab them. I know she was trying to go guild for guild, but I don't know. It just seems like for her wanting specifically Dragon Slayers that she would maybe kind of do something onto the other people. I mean, Gray's a Devil Slayer, so he has a Slayer magic of his own, and Urza has Dragon Slaying Sword. But like Lucy, I mean, she has a Rhinometria, which is still an attack that can obviously damage Dragon Slayer. Just depends on the character she's fighting. But unless Machine wants to do something new with her abilities, like she can, I see her only really fighting Kyria or Mad Mole. I don't even know if like with Mad Mole, because Mad Mole's whole armor thing, who knows exactly how her Lucy's Rhinometria would work, against it, would it do internal damage or what? How exactly would the light kind of application go? But while they're all getting this set up, obviously like Selene's not counting Happy, Charlotte, and Panther Lily. Like they're not going to be really in this fight. Panther Lily is a capable fighter, but obviously not up to this level whatsoever. There was a really interesting interaction in this whole thing. So when Selene is saying that she's going to be pretty much the judge of this whole game, she's just going to watch, because at one point she said like, it doesn't really matter whether you guys all die or like what, or both sides are pretty much done. The only way that the only real way that Selene can lose is if Fairy Tail gets to Heart and escapes before Selene can get to him, which again, I find really hard for the idea of getting away from Selene if she just teleport to you at any point in time. So Selene is obviously looking at this as more of like a scenario she can't lose, because she even says at this point when they're asking about the point of it, she's saying, oh, it's just for entertainment. I'm going to get it either way, but you guys can make it more, this whole, acquiring it more fun, instead of just like a trip to acquire this heart. But when Urza is obviously upset and saying how that she, she'll fight Selene like right here and cut her down, Selene has that one of those moments where she gets like the whole shadow over her face. She gets more serious. And here's something that I wonder about it, because it's specifically at Urza, I feel. And the reason I think that is I feel like Selene logically would know of Irene and know of Urza through Irene. I think she would be aware of who Urza is. Selene seems very intelligent, and it would make complete sense to me that she would know of the woman who created Dragon Slayer magic, but also the daughter of said woman. It just would make only sense to me. Like with Selene versus the other Dragon Gods, she's shown that she knows a lot and she's very intelligent. She has eyes and ears in a lot of places, and she keeps tabs on stuff. So I feel like it would just make sense if at some point she looked into Irene and Urza by extension. But shortly after that, when Laxus is just saying like, oh, it doesn't seem like that crazy, it's just like a fight 7 vs 7. Ray and Lucy are pretty much saying, like that, should be good. Then we got Lax on our side, you shouldn't underestimate us, kind of thing. You don't know if your expectations are gonna come out against this team. Kind of like they're keeping their confidence up, which is good. I like that from Lucy. But then Selene, we get one more panel of that kind of like more seriousness of her, and that's what I kind of mean too, is she didn't have a sharp response for any of those guys or any of the other ones really, but she did for Urza. And I feel like it would make sense for Urza to kind of like have a tie here. And on top of that, I still think it'd be really weird if Mishima just happened to have that scene right before they went to Edelus with Urza and Jalal under the moonlight, right before Selene was the big antagonist for 2 different arcs now. Potentially more, who knows? Because, I mean, it looks like Selene, this is only an arc for Selene to do something and not the arc of beating Selene. So Selene might go for a whole nother arc after this. But, there's so much that I think Selene still has, and I think Mishima is setting up. Please tell me in the comments if you think that would just be a logical kind of story-wise thing for Selene to know. I don't expect Alderaan to know. He's been asleep for 300 years. I don't expect Mercephobia to know or Ignia to know, because why would they? But now we have all the characters kind of getting split up as Selene's teleporting them. They're all not kind of putting their general groups. I mean, for the most part, I think they're pretty much good. Like, Natsu has Happy, and then he ends up fighting Lucy. But it's like Carla and Gajeel get paired up, and then Wendy and Panther Lily. It seems like Laxus is by himself, and then Gray and Urza are grouped up. So, Gray and Urza. I thought, for some reason, I thought I said Gray and Laxus for like a half second. But a lot of the matchups. So here's the thing about the matchups. When you really look at the main cast and you look at the enemies with Diablos, out of the Ellen tier people, who are the ones that got most emphasized on getting advancements in their magic? Lucy and Wendy. And out of like the whole set of groups, you only really have 2 people I think that Wendy or Lucy could logically 1v1 at the moment, and that is Mad Mole and Kyria. So it would really just depend on how those 2 matchups go. I feel like it would make more sense for Lucy to go up against Kyria, considering they did fight for a short period of time back in Ermina, but obviously Lucy wasn't strong enough to really fight back against her. But now Lucy's a lot more powerful, just based off of like regaining some self-confidence, gaining some extra experience, and getting more powerful from just being an Ellen tier. And one of the reasons I think that it should be Kyria is she did already fight Mimi, and Mimi's not a Dragon Slayer, but she has it's the fact that she is a hand-to-hand kind of brute force attacker, which isn't the exact same thing as a Dragon Slayer, but in a core aspect of how Dragon Slayers fight, it is. And I don't think she should fight Mad Mole, because Mad Mole would just be like a higher version of Mimi, which I'm still fine with, as long as she gets like a good 1v1. But I think the Kyria fight would be better for her. It depends on Mad Mole, because I know a lot of people want Mad Mole to fight Gajeel, so it could be like a battle of defense and see what Mishima does there. Just like brute force and defense would be really cool. But Wendy's fight obviously has to be... Wendy has to get a good fight, unless she wants to do like Misaki or something, because like Haku is the one that everyone assumed, because obviously like young kid versus young kid. Wendy's still like 14, kind of like 15 area, but obviously that's still young for like the other characters, pretty much everybody else involved besides Haku. And like that gap is still big. Like with Laxus and Gajeel, though they aren't at level with fighting somebody like Suzaku currently, when you think about where they're at, and you think about like, say, Gajeel was not that much weaker than Natsu during their fight in Drasil. The difference was Natsu, though, was in his Lightning Flame Dragon mode, not Fire Dragon King mode or Dragon Force. But the way that obviously it works is he gets a power boost, a certain amount he gets amplified by when he goes into Dragon Force, as well as Fire Dragon King mode and Lightning Flame Dragon mode. But the differences are like how much he gets, but also how much the cost of magic it's going to take to be in that form. Dragon Force obviously takes way more magic to use than Lightning Flame Dragon mode. So with his Lightning Flame Dragon, when he was able to get more of a like elongated battle out of Gajeel, versus like if he went in Dragon Force and he would just kind of like destroy over him. But the big differing factor here is obviously Natsu has more powerful forms than someone like Gajeel and someone like Laxus currently. Because Laxus showed that he could use Dragon Force obviously way back in the Fighting Festival way early down the series, but that's like Lacrima based Dragon Force, and as we saw with Cobra, Sting, and Rogue,
going off that is not that good. It gives a boost, but like the amp is not even remotely close to what even the artificial Dragon Force that say like Natsu got against Jalal and Zero were at, or Wendy against Easel. You can look at those boosts versus like what any of the Lacrima based Dragon Force users ended up getting. Stronger, not like crazy stronger, like anytime we ever saw a character get Dragon Force by consuming a very powerful version of their attribute. But if Loxus and Gajil can unlock True Dragon Force, which both of them are in the power level range that they could, it's really just going to depend, I think, more on a character kind of setup, like understanding why they're achieving it now kind of thing. Gajil's always had that thing where he's behind other people, but I feel like if they ended up getting it, they could cover a gap in order to do it. Because I think if Natsu fought one of the Black Dragon Slayer Knights 1v1 in Dragon Force, I think that it would either be like a draw or he'd win. Because when you compare the Dragon Gods, obviously, and this is obviously like headcanon-ish, but it makes sense. It makes complete sense in canon. If you look at weakened Alderaan that Natsu beat and human form Selene, they're both dramatically weakened versions of their full power. With the God Seeds destroyed, Alderaan was still strong, but he wasn't as powerful as he actually was at full strength when all the God Seeds are up. We know that he got weaker with his power. Well, at least his God Seed version did, as the other God Seeds were destroyed. And Selene, we know, is way weaker in her human form than her dragon form. In her human form, Suzaku can beat her, but in her dragon form, she could one-shot somebody stronger than Suzaku. There's just a general big gap there. So I feel like it's fair to say, considering their full power on level, if their weakened versions are on level, and if you look at those, Natsu did better full power than Suzaku did full power. The Dragoneers do have Dragon Force, but we know that they can't just use Dragon Force like as easily as, kind of like as carelessly as the other generations, because it seems like once they use Dragon Force, it just kind of kicks on and it just keeps going. But it also just makes them kind of like lose their mind and they get a little wild. But Loxus and Gajil have a really good kind of opportunity here. I think for them, logically, to be able to fight their opponents, it just depends on like what Mishima's going to do with them. Gray's an odd spot too, but he's a Slayer, so he still has the capability of having a powerful kind of just increase with the devil equivalent of Dragon Force. Again, that's gonna also really depend. It's one thing that Mishima gave Gray, similar to like how Natsu still kind of contains, like his fire still has some of the mixture of other fire dragon flames that he's eaten. Gray has imitated others' ice, like we know that's part of how he beat Invul. So if he's able to retain that broken ice, like that definitely for him will be a really strong component in his fights up and coming. Because I feel like Gray's different than the other ones, because Gray is similar to Scullion, whereas like if you look at the Fairy Tail group and you look at the Diablos group, and obviously like Diablos with all their members, you can kind of look at it like Wendy and Lucy being in the lower echelons, kind of like how with Diablos they had people like Nibiru, Wraith, Kyria, and Madmul, and then between them you have like Gray and Scullion, and then above that is like well, I would say like Urza's around that too, but like Mishima has definitely given Urza a lot more kind of like booming spotlight in Hunter's Quest power wise than Gray. Gray's gotten some good stuff with we saw in Elentier, but Gray has not gotten any new forms or any new kind of like aspects of his power in Hunter's Quest, which is definitely in terms of fighting isn't like he doesn't have anything like as good of a new showing as Urza did so far. Like Urza with her new swords, showing her new sword form with, well, I mean, it's like she said it was an ornamental thing, but obviously she can fight with it, so you can kind of count it now with her whole 1,000 armor. But like I said, Gray got something good with his whole like large scale dynamic ice make minions, but obviously that's not the same thing as like getting an upgrade, like having a dragon sling sword and then having a fire dragon sword and an ice devil sword. Those were just huge bonuses to Urza's repertoire in general. Like, well, I guess her combative repertoire, but you know what I mean. Like it was just way more than a lot of the characters got. Like Natsu got a new form, he's got some new attacks, but like for the most part, like Urza's gotten probably like Wendy. Actually, I was gonna say Wendy's probably the one that's gotten the most. But you can have that fight, Grace Scullion, because obviously there's a pass to it. The problem with that though is if Urza ends up 1v1ing one of the Black Dragon Slayer Knights, and maybe like her whole point in this arc is to eventually overcome one and get strong enough to beat one-on-one, like Suzaku, then that would make her power level gap like way more than Gray's, because I currently at least see Gray and Urza about like around the same area, whereas like above that it's like Natsu, Loxus, and Guild Arts within the Fairy Tail Guild. But I mean, Urza could recover the gap. We'll see. Gray definitely was looking better in Alvarez, but like Urza's been looking better in 100 Years Quest. Like Gray just hasn't gotten a lot of the combative spotlight, and it's like he's gotten a lot of good character stuff, but because of that, like I said, now it looks like Gray's spot potentially might slip from Urza, but we'll see, because like otherwise I don't really know who he would fight besides Scullion. But then out of the other kind of members, like you look at the 4 bigger people of Diablos and you look at the 3 lower people right now that they have. Madmal and Kyria, if we're talking about 1v1s, we don't know about group fights and like how things are actually going to turn out, but if we're just going to talk 1v1s, I don't see Wendy or Lucy 1v1ing anybody that isn't Madmal or Kyria, because like after that is where you start to get big gaps, and I don't really know what Wendy would really have to fight any of these other guys. I feel like when it comes to like in the story, Haku's probably the only one that would make them kind of like logical sense for Wendy to fight, just because it'd be like these 2 young prodigy Dragon Slayer kids, young teens kind of like areas fighting. But otherwise, like I think the idea that she does fight Misaki though, like maybe she could do something really cool. It just depends on like what Misaki's like. It's a little difficult when we don't really know anything about these new characters. We have no interactions really. We only have that kind of like tiny couple bits of dialogue at the end of was the chapter 92 100 Years Quest, but you know, it is what it is. The chapter though is really starting to kind of like rev up between how things are going to be going, because I didn't expect that Natsu and Haku thing whatsoever. Like when Selene teleports away. Also, this is a side thing, I feel so bad for a little bird dude. It feels like his character was just introduced so Selene could have someone to talk to during all these, because obviously she teleports Elefseri away, but the only person remaining after that point, and like the Fairy Tail member's gone, is little bird dude. So it's like he's just gonna be there probably to talk to Selene, because she's like, oh, you know, you wanna chat with me as this is going, and she makes a little portal so they can like look into the labyrinth. And this dude doesn't know what's going to. What's funny is he's like doesn't seem like a fighter at all. So he's like just some bird who's talking to a god level character who's just toying with all these other powerful characters like it's nothing. But then we get the whole part where, you know, characters are split up. There's some kind of jokes ensuing between obviously like the mismatched pairs. Lucy's stuck in the wall. I wonder about that one. I feel like that one is. I personally do feel like Selene did that on purpose. Like she makes a thing about like Selene pretending that, or like acting like she knows how to use transportation magic, but she didn't do it. I feel like that doesn't like. I feel like that doesn't make a ton of sense, because we know Selene. Selene is like the highest spatial wizard, or at least spatial magic user. She can't use magic, so technically it makes her a wizard, but she's the highest level of somebody who uses spatial magic in the whole series. Nobody has a higher grasp on it. Like the second character I would say is Anna, but like Selene is just able to do whatever she wants spatially. She can open portals and just go places at any point in time. I think it'd be weird if she couldn't teleport people, unless it's like she wasn't looking entirely where she was going, or like kind of like how it's elaborate. She just teleported them inside, so it's not like she gave them a indefinite kind of location thing. But with that, now like Natsu, you know, he's poking fun because Lucy's stuck in the wall. And something I did want to address, well, I have to address the wall thing, because Natsu's punching it, doesn't damage it really. I'm guessing the wall, because it is from Dokermag, it has like his durability, Earth the Dragon God's toughness, like confined into this wall. But then we see Haku. So this is one thing I did want to address in this chapter, because I was seeing people like comment about like Lucy looking bad in this scene and like used for like a joke and stuff, and how it like kind of it like almost belittles her character in a lot of ways because she's looking not powerful in this scene and not looking like in control. But I find that completely ridiculous because you have to look at it in context of the story. Lucy, though she is strong, one, she's a caster. Lucy's a summoner. These are dragon slayers. This is like the most head-to-head combat centered magic possible within the series. It like that is the worst real opponent for somebody like Lucy, as we saw with Nineheart. He just went in, like Natsu just said nope to like how his magics and the different variations of his abilities work, and just went direct in and started attacking it. And we know in the series that the general weakness to summoners are the summoner itself, because they're summoning powerful things to fight for them. Lucy's a bit of an exception because she has built up durability the old-fashioned way by just taking a ton of damage, and she does fight alongside her spirits. But obviously, like, she's still not as durable as any like the rest of her team. She is tough, but really, like, when you look at like the Dragon Slayer, the durability, Devil Slayer durability, you look at Urza's just general durability as a knight. Lucy, though tough, again, doesn't really compare. And I personally think that like that's why Mimi was Lucy's opponent, because it was almost like a beta test for her to fight like an actual like hand-to-hand centered opponent, maybe. But with Haku is just so much more powerful that it's not like Lucy could do anything. This is, logically speaking, this is somebody that she could not fight back against. And again, I say like I personally think she can fight back and potentially defeat Kiria and Madmol, but the Black Dragon Slayer Knights, no. Like, you think she could fight Suzaku or human form Selene? No. It just makes complete sense that somebody like Haku would be able to carelessly and like barely effort, with very little effort, be able to affect someone like Lucy because of just the general like gap in power and capability that he's gonna have over her. That just makes complete sense. This is like the same thing with Georg getting one shot by Selene. As I was like, damn, because I wanted to see more about Georg. It's like, yeah, that logically, that's what would happen. You swing too high at somebody who's not having in your shit, they can just kill you. Happened to God Serene as well. It happened to, Urza's dipshit dad when Irene went and stepped on him. Like, Selene just logically would do that. That's what she wanted revenge. So Haku being able to just affect Lucy with his magic, again, it makes sense. This isn't a fight where Lucy would have the upper hand. This isn't a fight where Lucy logically would be able to really contend against him. But the fight itself is weird. I'm wondering if it's actually going to be Natsu versus Haku, or if it's just going to be more of like a Haku display, and then maybe their fight gets separated. Because I do like the idea of Wendy fighting him. Like, if I can have it, I would probably do... these are the matches that I would probably do, just real quick. I'll do an actual like video talking about it, or maybe doing predictions or something, but it would be Lucy versus Kiria. You'd have Gajul against Madmol, and then maybe another match for Gajul. I think Gajul versus Madmol would be cool, but unless Mishima really overhypes it, then I would take that into like maybe another fight with like Gajul getting a second match, because I think out of everybody there who deserves a second match is Gajul. He's gotten the least amount in this arc. Not in the arc, in 100 Years Quest really in general is a better way to say it. Because like him and Loxus both have only really had the one fight, but Loxus's fight got way more focused than like the Natsu versus Gajul rematch. That was like a short match. We didn't see a ton of it, which I don't think we needed to see a ton, but I liked seeing what we got, but I would have obviously preferred more. So, but because we didn't get a ton from there, we haven't really seen much of Gajul in all 100 Years Quest. So I would really like it if he got some fights. I think it'd be cool if it's like, if you think back to like Bleach, for those, I assume most people here like watch Bleach. If you think back to like Chad's fight in Hueco Mundo when he fought Contenbane, the one Espada where he revealed, well, was it Primera Espada or Primera, whatever, you know what I mean? When he fought that one dude, Gottenbane, who was like a boxer, like the dude with the orange afro. And he beat him, but then he went up against somebody stronger and he lost. And that obviously built hype on that enemy. I would actually like that for Gajul. I think that'd be really cool if he got like some really sick fight, but he was injured afterwards. He was a little tired. And then one of the Black Dragon Slayer Knights like defeats him after maybe like, they only fight for like a chapter and then he decides to get serious. Maybe it could be Kirin or Suzaku or Misaki. But you know, it'd just be really neat to kind of like have a fight like that where it kind of like snatches away the shining victory and then offers him a you know, hypes up another bad guy. Well, I guess antagonists are not evil, but there's a lot of hype there. Loxus, obviously Loxus, I can see getting 1v1. I do really like the idea of Loxus versus Suzaku, and you have Loxus lose, because I feel like logically out of the Diablos team, the last one that should be standing will be Suzaku. He is the most focused out of their guild, and Mishima has definitely shown that he likes him. But with Natsu, like Natsu Suzaku is like really the only way I see it. It's one of the reasons I think Natsu, or I think Loxus versus Suzaku would be really cool, and then have Suzaku win, get like healed up, and then Natsu fight him. And then you can have like Kirin versus either Gajil, and then like Misaki maybe fights either Urza or Wendy. I feel like Skullion versus Gray though is like the match for him, unless Mishima wants to give Gray 2 matches. I'd be alright with that. Maybe Gray ends up defeating, like, what if Gray ends up fighting Kirin, wins, but then he runs into Suzaku and Suzaku defeats him. Because obviously, like, once they lose, they should get, like, teleported out, I would assume, by Celine. And it's just going to come down to, like, it's just going to come down to the last guy standing. And by the nature of how this works, characters should be able to get more than one fight. So, like, that to me is, like, there's a lot of big moving pieces right now and, like, question marks of how this is going to go. And obviously, like, the matches themselves are going to be big importance, because this isn't the same as, like, think of it kind of like in the last day of the Grand Magic Games, but it's got way more big stuff at stake, way more on the line, and these are all powerful enemies. There's only a couple characters that from Diablos that would, you know, could draw a short end of the stick scenario. Like Kyria could fight against Wendy and Lucy, potentially Gray and Urza, depending on like if she got stronger since her last couple fights, as well as like she does have Dragon Force. We'll see if she uses it. But outside of like a couple people at the bottom, like the big people require big people. Like the Black Dragon Slayer Knights are gonna require Natsu or Loxus, and then we'll see about Gajil, Gray, and Urza and what Machine wants to do with them. But yeah, so Haku, the whole last time about Haku, you know, him turning Lucy into a doll, I really want to know what his Dragon Slaying attribute is. It's obviously very weird. He seems pretty chill. He seems like he's a nice kid, but I mean, like, this is the first bit of him. We haven't even really seen him fight. Maybe he's crazy. Either way, good chapter. I thought this was pretty fun. I like the setup. The dialogue was really nice. I like potentially at least some of the hints that Celine knows who Urza is. Just a couple matchups that are getting set up right now. And the potential for some of the characters. Because I'm actually really hyped to see Natsu fight first, because Natsu really didn't get a fight in Elentier. He hasn't had like an actual focused fight since his fight with Alderaan, so I would really like to maybe just see like short scuffle between him and Haku. But besides that, I definitely really want to see like Gray and Gajil. Gajil is like a big kind of like character I want to see right now, because we haven't gotten much of him in 100 Years Quest. But anyway, other than that, comment below, thumbs up the video for the like button, subscribe button, check out my other videos. But in that, wish everybody's already subscribed, and I thank you all for listening.